Okay. Everyone and their mothers has put in their 2 cents about the garbage fire of Steven Universe Future's finale, just like they did with the garbage fire of the core series. You've heard it all. You've saw it all. You watched something you cared about turn into a brain-dead caricature of itself just like me. We know. We all know. We should just move on to better shows with better potential, better conclusions, and room to grow. So, this is me. Moving on. This is my final fuck you of the pretentious, self-congratulatory hubris of this show's writing and morals, and after this, it will be laid to rest. Good riddance, you short-sighted potato. So, there were a lot of things that went wrong in Future, most of which followed from what was wrong in the core series. Poor time management, tackling subjects they didn't have enough writing skill to portray in a dangerous and condescending way, teabagging Rose's corpse without any semblance of nuance. You know, Steven Universe. Some of the problems were new. They never made the core characters of the show this cardboard and vegetable before, not to this extent at least. But none of what happened in Future surprised me. This really is just Season 6 because nothing about this changed. We're still seeing everything from Steven's view, and everything in the world still revolves around Steven even beyond that, and we're still focusing on emotions, trauma, the effects of war and abuse, and we're still discovering new powers Steven pulls out of his plot convenience ass. I'm going to refrain from criticizing the locked perspective, because while it is a terrible writing decision, it's one they made and they were never going to change. It's not something they failed at, it's just a restriction that they chose. We're watching Steven slowly lose himself as he struggles to adapt to a post-Diamond Threat world. Even Steven's subconscious knows that 3 gods with fascist ideologies and a genocide complex couldn't actually be neutered this easily. So, he's struggling to find a purpose that makes him feel needed, and fighting with rightful PTSD after a non-stop string of life and death struggles. On paper, this is a plot with a lot of promise. It's setting the foundation of exploring the consequences of a child playing Messiah, and to explore the results of stopping a dictator with a clapback. We could see Steven coming to terms with the fact that he can't forgive the Diamonds for hurting so many people for so long, for abusing and trying to murder 3 out of 4 of his mothers. That he's afraid of Jasper and those who, under the Diamonds, tried to hurt him, but slowly coming to identify who has the potential to be redeemed and who doesn't, taking Amethyst's advice from the first episode of Future, and realizing not everyone is his responsibility, but some are worth it. We can watch him figure out where to put his time and effort, both toward himself and those around him. We can watch Steven codify in himself that he doesn't need to be needed, and we can finally build on the moral of the core series being communication. We're going to see him find support and advice from his family now that they've all learned to be open and honest with each other and to listen. We can turn the script around and we can watch them help him, Pearl and Greg talking to him about Rose and helping him come to terms with her as a person. Not some morally gray caricature that caused all his problems, but his mom, and who she really was. We can see more of Amethyst in the first episode, teaching him how to be comfortable with himself without relying on others and being needed. Bismuth can have that hard conversation about war and power and how pain can make you want revenge, but how to be bigger than that desire. How not to fall into the cycle of abuse. We can see the confrontation between Jasper and Lapis with Steven while he tries to help Jasper recover. And we'll come to the understanding with him that even if people are worth helping, even if they change, others have the right to not give them that chance. That it's not all or nothing. Some relationships stay broken, even as the individuals heal. We're properly set up for far more nuance and mature take on everything Steven Universe stands for. And then? No. Fuck you. Steven, instead, is going to let his personality flip 180 using PTSD as an excuse, shutting out everyone in his life as he slowly becomes angry, dangerously impulsive, malicious, and violent. Because that's what trauma does to people. It turns them into monsters. Brilliant moral, Sugar. Thank you. I'm sure this generation will handle hardship great now. You taught them well. We are forced to watch as Stephen is offered help and advice over and over and over, and he only responds with inconsistent jadedness, irritation, ignorance, anger, and downright opposite land interpretations. This isn't a teenager having mood swings. This isn't a hurt person dealing with trauma. This isn't even an asshole with no excuse. This is 5 different characters fighting for dominance inside of the corpse of the original. All of them bad, none of them consistent. We get the core characters we've watched grow and develop over 5 seasons, who we saw summarize their arcs beautifully not even a year ago in the movie, retcon their growth, change their actions and comforts drastically with no explanation, and stop existing. We see Steven's best friend and closest confidant just get fucking yeeted out of the majority of this season with a YouTube meme. And we are forced to watch as the writers shoehorn in the most half-assed, bullshit, insulting plot about Rose just being the worst, you guys. Oh my god. I'm going to take a moment to focus on those 2 episodes because, as you know, I have feelings about this. They try so hard to shit on Rose Quartz here. They frame everything in these episodes around the damage her selfish, evil actions caused others. And they conclude them by visually throwing her in the garbage. Classy. And even with these horrible, terrible, abusive acts that they reveal about her in these episodes, they are either making no goddamn sense or aren't evil. Holy shit. Pink Pearl reveals that the damage on her eye was caused by Rose. Stephen takes this as further confirmation that Rose is a monster and proceeds to be worse than her in a parallel action in the same episode, and then doesn't acknowledge it. Rose accidentally yelled too loud when angry at White Diamond and hurt Pink Pearl, who was in the vicinity. Immediately tried to fix it and resulted in White brainwashing Pink Pearl forever. Awesome. So, let me get this straight. A child accidentally hurt another child while lashing out at a woman who isolates, abuses, and controls her every movement, and then said woman proceeds to permanently remove the other child's free will as a punishment? Both things traumatizing Rose so much that she never uses that power again and retreats into herself in fear so hard that she never trusts anyone with herself again? Yes. Yes, that's evil. Violent. Abusive. An accident that scarred her just as much as Pink Pearl and fundamentally changed her personality. But yeah. Evil. Evil, yeah. So then Stephen proceeds to yell the same way directed at the currently scared abuse victim, but somehow that's forgivable while Rose is not. Awesome. Also, Pearl didn't move on, is still in pain, and does nothing to truly defend Rose, passively allowing their child to further hate and visually disown her wife. Cool. In the other relevant episode about Rose, the other Rose Quartzes somehow blame Rose for Blue Diamond bubbling them. Also, they're traumatized because they were forced to take a nap. Stephen confirms that yes, what Rose did to them and had control over was definitely bad, and she was basically their abusive mom too, because Rose is the only person who can be blamed for hurting anyone. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Oh, and speaking of the diamonds, they really were reformed. So much to the point of having cute Deus Ex Machina new powers that retcon all of the damage they ever did and absolving them of any consequences. You know, except all of the mass organic life genocide, but don't worry about it, they fixed the gems. Spinell would have been a wonderful person to address Stephen's anger manifesting as violence and how to get past it, but no. She's an idiot now. Don't worry about it. Also, White Diamond is not only reformed, but infinitely wiser about everything she made her life goal to stamp out of every living being in the galaxy. But yeah, go off, I guess. I guess stuffing a new character in White Diamond's corpse was their only option if they weren't going to address the fascism, but it's still really hard to watch. Steven tries to murder her. He says later he doesn't actually go through with it, but no, he did. He did actually try to kill her. The only reason he didn't succeed is because he accidentally already broke the parallel pillar in that scene. And honestly, if this shitfest was written well, this plot point would have been welcome. Steven wanting revenge on literally Satan makes sense, and having either Spinell or Bismuth help him overcome that instead of giving in to his demons would have been brilliant. But as it stands, no. Fuck you. This is stupid. I haven't mentioned everything that happens with Connie because it's the one part of this show that I have no large problems with. It's a good depiction of the part of Steven struggling to do the human thing, and it's decently executed. Greg, on the other hand, Steven has officially become the worst non-diamond villain, and it absolutely sends me. Steven goes to his dad for help, and Greg does what is the sweetest fucking thing, and what he thinks might help Steven the most. It's not what Steven wants, though, and Steven is a dick about it. Steven finally discovers Greg's backstory. He had a light case of neglect and abuse that he broke out of to find his way in the world. While he wasn't beaten and isolated and threatened by violence against hostages like his wife, he still had a bad upbringing and came into his own when he finally got out. Steven, being a little bitch, literally wasn't listening to a thing his father said while he was baring his heart to his son, got jealous of the cute house and nuclear family he had, and destroyed Greg's most beloved possession, while screaming at him for being a terrible father. Somehow. Steven claims that because Greg lived in a van and didn't take him to the doctors as a kid, that Greg was a neglectful father. Now, let me address this real quick. I'm sure everyone's already heard or understands the reason Greg couldn't take Steven to any doctor. Steven is not a citizen. His mother has no recorded existence. He's got a gem in his stomach that the doctors wouldn't understand and would more than likely try to remove. Greg has no way to even prove that Steven is his son. The only thing interacting with schools or doctors or the government would have done is have them try to take Steven away. And more realistically, Greg and Steven going into hiding, as the crystal gems wouldn't have let Steven be taken, but now neither of them can show their face in society. So that's not really an option. We got that part. Next, Greg lives in a van. Both Steven and everyone who fell for this stupid fucking reason has no object permanence or short-term memory. Greg and the Gems started building the temple house almost immediately after Steven's birth, and Steven lived in the van for a maximum of 4 years. More often at Vidalia's, if I were to speculate. Greg understood that that wasn't an environment to raise a child in. Of course he did. He's not stupid. So he literally built Steven a fucking house with his bare hands as quickly as possible. Ah yes, the sweet labors of neglect. Fuck you, Steven. You are really an asshole here. Then, Steven finally fully breaks under the bitch boy strain of rebuffing every single person's attempt to understand and help him. Just nothing can get through to him. The pain is too deep. It's not that simple, guys. And he turns into a kaiju for no reason. Everyone Deus Ex Machina's over and fixes it in 5 minutes. With a hug. Then they time skip to him being entirely stable again and says, no, guys, I promise. There was definitely communication and development in the time we didn't let you see. Look, Steven mentions a therapist that we never see him go to. Also, There was definitely communication in those months. We promise. All of it's gone now, though, as Steven plans to leave out of the blue and doesn't tell his family, and then his family hides their feelings until it blows up at the last possible second. Because nothing's changed in these people, and they still don't know how to talk to each other until it's a problem. Nothing has improved. Awesome. Awesome. Steven Universe ends with no music, a comedic goodbye, having resolved all of these problems that they have presented as complex and not easily fixable within 5 minutes, and he rides off into the sunset, never to be seen again. Good riddance, Steven Universe. Das vidanya, au revoir, sayonara, you had 2 good seasons, bye-bye.
Okay. Here's my idea for the finale. Everything is exactly the same, but at the end, the car just takes a sharp right turn off the cliff road,